Well, hello again, everybody. This is Phil, and I'm here with Keeton Alder of Kaika, and he's going to tell us about his founder story in creating this company. So, what is Kaika exactly? I have no clue as to a guess as to what this might be if I were going just off of the name.
Right. So the name means developing oneself or a blooming flower in Japanese.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So what it is basically it's a language app where it takes you and it virtually immerses you in a new culture, preferably the culture that you're trying to learn. And I mean that's the basic watered down 2 sentences of what Kaika is.
Gotcha. So virtually, is that wandering around on a desktop, like using the WASD keys or the arrow keys, wandering around a landscape, or is that something else?
It's definitely something else. So when you talk to a lot of people who've tried learning a second language, they'll practice for years and years, and they'll go to that country and they'll barely be able to communicate what they want for dinner.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden you're overwhelmed with how fast everyone's speaking. You're overwhelmed with how to conjugate the verbs. You freeze up in the moment. And actually, I was in Italy, and I lived there for a couple of years. And when I was there, we ran into a school teacher on a train from I think it was Indiana. She was there with a couple of her students. They're doing a high school trip, and she started talking to an Italian next to us on the train, and she could barely communicate with them, but she was teaching Italian to these students.
Oh, wow.
And so I had been in the country maybe a year and a half, and I had already surpassed her by a substantial amount.
Wow.
In a year and a half, and she'd been studying this language her whole life. And so that's kind of where the idea comes from. How can you make language learning more fun and more valuable to where you actually learn the language rather than you learn a little bit about the grammar, but you can't actually put it all together to communicate fluently. And so what it is, virtual reality it's all the rage now in media. It's New York Times.
Virtual reality. Gotcha. Continue. All right. I'm scanning with you.
Okay. So virtual reality, New York Times has launched a huge campaign for it. The Guardian just finished a smaller campaign to tell a story, and I figured why not take virtual reality and use it for language learning. And so basically what we hope it to be is where you put on that headset and all of a sudden you're in Japan having a dinner with a Japanese family and you're communicating with them as if you were really in that country. You can learn about their customs, you can learn about the culture, and you just be immersed virtually in that world without paying that huge plane ticket and sitting on that plane for 18 hours to get to Japan.
And because that really is what it comes down to, is immersion. That's why you were able to surpass your teacher in a year and a half, because you were on the ground learning it. So
exactly, you're hearing it every day. You have to think in the moment. You're not repeating phrases that you've learned, but you're having to actually create a valuable conversation so you can continue creating value in your friendships.
And so in the virtual reality setup, you would also be connecting to specific communities again and again. Then is that about right? Then
So the way we have it set up right now is the community is all virtual. They're not real people. Imagine it kind of like Siri or Cortana. Is that the Microsoft version of Siri?
It is.
Okay, so imagine it like then you put on the headset and you have a 3D animation in front of you, and this 3D animation learns as you learn the language also. So it has a whole background story, and you have to put yourself in that community with them while learning that language.
Aha, gotcha. So it'll be some machine learning that you're going to be programming in too. And I'd like to come back to that. I want to touch on the VR aspect real quick for folks who haven't had an opportunity to try VR yet. VR is the real deal. The stuff from the late 90s, early 2000s that you were wearing these super bulky things, and it was like a helmet. It still is a helmet, but it's more just a visor now. And your mind is completely fooled. It is even just the basic games are completely immersive. You look down and you say, "Oh, I'm on a balcony. I better step back." And you know you're not. You're standing in a room, but it is completely immersive and really really dang cool. And this is still just super basic graphics like Team Fortress 2. We're not talking like legit Pixar rendering yet. So VR being a thing is coming, and I think Kaika, like the idea behind it, is pretty dang awesome, actually. Because
if we can pull it off, it will be. Yeah.
So beyond the VR or beyond the machine learning NPCs, what is the plan to get people engaged with, say, the Japanese family that you would have dinner with? Not necessarily dinner, of course, but what is the thought to get users on both sides of the pond, whatever pond that happens to be, enrolled?
I didn't quite understand. Are you asking how am I going to market it to people in other countries and America, or?
Yeah, because there needs to be a kind of a cross-pollination beyond just the NPCs. So, like, me talking to a person, I'll learn better than talking to a computer program.
Right. And currently, technology is not there yet to where I can create my own avatar, put on the headset, and I can be in this virtual room with somebody in Japan and actually speak with them. Currently, technology is not there yet, but that is a possibility and something that we're looking into. We're prepared for when technology catches up. But to answer that question, we have thought about a way to bring out of the game and bring that social aspect into the language learning process. And one of the ways we thought about this is once in your city or in your region, you have let's say 300 people or enough people that have downloaded the app and reach a certain level of proficiency in the language, you can start doing hangouts. You can post on the app, hey, me and a couple buddies are getting together, we're going to go bowling, or we're going to go out to dinner, and we're only going to speak in Japanese, or we're only going to speak in Italian, German, and that way you can go and meet people in your community that are learning this language and actually practice with what you've learned.
So it's a two-sided thing. Gotcha. I wasn't aware of that half of it. So that's pretty dang cool. And even a smaller community, 20, 30 people within a city is reasonable amount to practice with. And
because then you have motivation to learn because you want to be able to communicate and build these friendships in your city, and you have people backing you when work becomes too busy and they realize that you haven't progressed in the app. They're like, well, you're still on level 6. Like, what happened? You're progressing so fast. Like, I want to be able to talk to you about sports in Italian. Like, you gotta study up on soccer. You gotta go. Let's go. That's the idea, to create that community with people that have the same interests, and language being a primary interest.
Excellent. And the being able to communicate with people in their native language is great. It's one thing I wish I had actually done myself. I took 4 years of French, I think, and 2 years of Japanese, but it was the repetitive learning, and I was already almost an adult by the time I had started learning a second language. And the classroom doesn't quite convey it. Even doing those little language fairs they have in high school, where you go in and you sit in front of a panel and you respond to sentences and such. It's just, nope. Je m'appelle Phil Kilcrease. That's about it. Oh, and omelette du fromage, but that's Dexter's Lab more than anything. So,
so I mean, I would like 2 cheeses.
Yeah, that is. I believe so. Yeah, something silly like that. His language learning tape gets caught on that one phrase overnight, and that's all he can say. in French, even though he was trying to get it more down. So, so how big is your team? What are you up to right now? Because the app sounds like it's not done yet, but you're taking steps to get it there.
We're shooting for a prototype to come out in about 2 months, and this prototype is going to be basically the first level, and that way we can start testing our theory to see if this actually helps and increases language learning.
Gotcha. So that'll be January 2017 then.
Yeah, January 15th.
Got it. Excellent. So the first level, go ahead.
And so our team right now, it's me, and I'm designing the 3D models, kind of designing the user interface and all the scraps. And there's so much that goes into this project you don't realize at the beginning, and you have to learn it as you go, or you have to bring on a team member. We kind of want to make this our project as much as possible. And I also have my cousin working on it, who's the developer. And right now it's mainly just us two, but talking to a couple of people to start a marketing campaign to where we can start creating basic videos online to where people in Japan and Italy and Germany can start watching it, and we can get their feedback about our teaching style and kind of put our character, our voice into it and start creating our brand and kind of getting a feel about how people are reacting to it cross-culturally.
Got it. So it would be from that side then, if I'm guessing correctly, it would be teaching those other people in those other countries English. Is that right?
Exactly.
Got it. And then you get buy-in there. Some people who are already reasonably good English speakers or learn through you, then you have possibly an in of like, hey, would you be willing to help us teach Italian or German or Chinese or whatever? Is that about right? Kind of?
Yes. Yes and no. Because I already have, I'm pretty lucky, and I've done extensive traveling all over the world. And so I already have connections for all of the main languages we want to hit first.
Excellent.
And so once we have that revenue coming in and we start expanding to other languages, that's when we would hire people out and create an application form and make it extremely professional rather than kind of like a friend of a friend.
Got it.
And really step it up the next level to where we can start competing with other companies in our market.
Excellent. Which in the other companies, such as that Translation Rock and others, they tend to do they tend to do the procedural learning, like in a classroom, more than anything. Or the I don't know if Pimsleur's still going.
It is. Their programs are still out there. I haven't checked up on their company.
Got it.
How they're doing so far.
Yeah, I tried. I did try that one, and it was just I understand the Translation Rocket at least has other activities, but Pimsleur's just repeat. Like
repeat.
Yeah, and it's just
until you get it.
Yep, and then you can only say that thing, and I'm sure there are people it did work for, and that's phenomenal. I wasn't one of them, and I actually borrowed that particular CD from somebody else, and it didn't work for them either. So,
I mean, that's the problem. Is language is who you are. Your vocabulary forms what you think, your thoughts. And so, if you are limited to a certain phrase, your understanding in that language you have nothing. And so, as far as language goes, it's all about expressing who you are, so you can understand who other people are, rather than communicating basic, like where's the bathroom, I'm hungry, or where's the bus stop. It's about learning from each other, and I don't know, like when you learn a new language, your ability to think, you start to be able to think in that new language, and that doubles your vocabulary. So you can think about things in a completely new way. So if you had to put brackets on how you had to think, the limitations are incredible.
That is a really awesome insight, I gotta admit. That is, and yeah, I get the insight behind that, because there are just even in basic vocabulary ways, there are phrases in, say, German or Spanish or others, or even in English, that don't translate too well to other ones. And it's just like, well, what does that word mean? And the native speaker just got, it's not precise, but it's roughly this. And it's like,
exactly. So, like, for example, right? I speak English, Spanish, Italian, and I'm debating on picking up Japanese or Chinese next. And as far as an Italian goes, when you say "I miss you," it's "mi manchi." Like, from me, you're missing.
Oh, wow.
And if you say in English, it's like "I miss you," you are doing the action. The action's not being acted upon you. So in Italian, that takes on a whole meaning, as in you're the person suffering from the absence of this person, rather than you just want them around.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone thinks Italian to be that romantic language, and just in the vocabulary,
it's baked in.
You took it up a huge step. And in English, we have two ways to say I love you, and I'm in love with you. In Italian, there's so many different ways, and each way is a very significant meaning.
That is awesome. And I imagine underscores really the drive behind doing this, is you want to help people learn the languages and understand the other cultures in doing so, because that is part of it. At least it would be for me, communicating with them and properly understanding, should you visit or anything like that. Or even if you don't, if you're kicking around and you go to the Italian festival, there's one, I think, here in Salt Lake once a year.
It just happened about a month ago.
Yep, it happened down at the Gateway, and lots of really good food, among other things. So, and just people enjoying the culture and putting it on display for people to learn about. And there's just so much more out there than people realize. Compared to English is phenomenal and great. It's one of the languages, and that's where you're taking your first step, is teaching other languages English first. So, so in joining the Foundry community, what has been the biggest surprise in you getting Kaika up and running?
I'm the type of person who oversimplifies everything. I'm so overconfident in myself. And as soon as I entered the Foundry, I looked at the basic structure of it, and it's very quite simple. Manager reports, smokers. There's not that much. There's only like 4 or 5 main folders in our Google Drive, and that's like your nosebleed ticket to success, or to even to the game to start trying. Like, if you do the minimum, cool, you get to live the experience. But once you turn it up, once you stretch your manager report to where you hit your limit each week, and you're still missing items because you plan too much, that's when you really start to see success. Because I get comments all the time on my manager report. Your manager report is way too long. You should tone it down a little bit. And I think no, like, I'm being very specific, because these are specific goals that I need to hit. If I don't hit those, then I'm slowing down. Like, I'm sorry if it's going to be 5-6 pages, but that's 5-6 pages of hard work that I've been putting in, and this is my way of checking against myself and being honest with myself and saying, okay, this week I only hit 90% of what I said I was going to do. How do I get that 100%? And I've noticed that when I do that, the week after I hit 50%, because life happens. And it's not just, life happens, move on, but it's life happens, learn from it, do it better.
Yep.
And because of where I'm at with my project, Kaika, I can't really say, I don't have a lot of key indicators to measure against. So I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically the items I planned, divided. Well, what I got done divided by the items I planned plus the other items that I didn't plan.
Oh, precision execution score.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. And I just try to get that as close as I can to 100% or greater each week, because that tells me that I'm honing in on my skills and predicting my own capability and my own power to control where my project moves.
And that's what it's about.
That's the biggest thing that surprised me is if you think you're putting in 10%, you're probably only putting in 2%. And if you think you're putting in 100%, it's probably only 50%. You can always turn it up, and you find that week after week as you're beating yourself up because you didn't get that 100%, or you're beating yourself up because you got that 150%, all those other items that you could have done.
Yep.
The happy ground is almost so hard to find.
Yep. Because going over 100% isn't necessarily good. It means you might be doing a little bit of busy work, or you didn't schedule properly, and like, oh, I thought this would take way longer than it was, or I thought it would be way harder. So then I got these other things. So no, you're exactly right. You want 100% on the nose, and maybe if you get stuff done a little early, a few extra stretch goals beyond that.
Exactly.
And that's the sweet spot. You're absolutely right.
And right now is, if I push this launch date for the prototype back to February 15th, not really a big deal. It's just a month after, a month slower. But if I get it on that January 15th deadline and I hone in my skills so I'm predicting exactly what I'm doing each week, chances are once those decisions, that 1 month does make a huge difference, whether it be with marketing, advertising, hitting our quarterly goals 5-6 years down the road, that those are going to be costly. So I have to make sure that I'm doing the things right now, perfectly, and honing my skills, so I don't pay for it 6 years down the road.
Yep, you've got it down. You've got the basic mentality down, and that is the first step, and it is a significant one. That is awesome to hear you say that.
But it's still the basic.
Yeah,
that's the thing. There's always more.
Absolutely.
No one can sit you down and say, okay, you've done the basic. Step 1's here now. Step 2's here now. Because it's your own journey. It's how you come to be a better CEO of your own company. So, fairy tale, I can't think right now, but it sounds so mystical, it's your own journey, but it's your own success story, and however much time you put into it is the chances of that coming true.
It's absolutely
becoming a reality.
It's absolutely right. And the tools don't change from a coffee shop to a software platform to Oracle or IBM, but what story those documents tell is unique and individualized to each company. So thank you so much for joining us today, Keeton, and those phenomenal insights. I really appreciate your time, and you have a phenomenal weekend. And everybody, thank you so much for watching and joining Keeton and I for a little bit of chatting and an insight into his company. We will catch you later.